We have a huge matchup in the NFC as Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears are taking on Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay. This is your Week 14 2025 prediction and preview video. And let's talk about what's at stake entering this game. Currently, the Bears have a 9-3 record. They're in first place in the NFC North Division with the Green Bay Packers, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Lions. And on top of that, they have the best record in the NFC. So currently, they're the first seed. If the season was to end today, the Bears will have home field advantage and they'll get a first round bye. On the other hand here, for the Green Bay Packers, a team that has been red hot over the last 3 games, they're 8-3-1. They're second in this division. And their last 2 games were against division rivals. And let's start off with Green Bay here because they are the home team. They're undefeated in this division. So they go out there this week and they defeat the Chicago Bears. That will give them the upper hand in this division. You swept the Lions. You defeated them in week 1. You beat them last week as well. And before last week's game, you had a very good win over the Minnesota Vikings, another team in this division. But last week, Jordan Love was awesome. 18 of 30, 234 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns. He got the job done. And Jordan Love has only had 2 off games this season. Against the Carolina Panthers was 26 of 37, 273 passing yards, 0 passing touchdowns, 1 interception. And the next week against the Philadelphia Eagles, it wasn't all on Jordan Love. The play calling with Coach LaFleur was very inconsistent. But over the last 3 games, Jordan Love has played better. And it goes back to what he did a few years ago when he first became the starting quarterback in Green Bay. For the first half of that season, he had some up and down moments. He was very inconsistent. But in the back half of that season, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the game. He had 11 passing touchdowns to just 1 interception to finish off that year before they went against the Dallas Cowboys in that playoff game and they won that matchup. But Jordan Love, in the last 3 weeks, 6 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions. They're going to need a big game out of Jordan Love in this game. The Chicago Bears, they have Montez Sweat, easily their best defensive lineman. It's going to come down to how can he deal with that pressure with Montez Sweat and how can Coach LaFleur go out there and chip block him on the outside. You have the weapons at your disposal. You have Christian Watson, who has been an awesome wide receiver since he's come back from that ACL injury. Had 4 catches for 80 receiving yards last week, 1 receiving touchdown. Jatavian Wicks, 6 catches, 94 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. And Luke Musgrave, 1 catch, 23 receiving yards. Tucker Kraft is out for this game. He suffered an ACL injury a few weeks ago. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. So they're going to need Luke Musgrave to step his game up in this matchup against the Chicago Bears. But Romeo Doubs had a receiving touchdown last week, 20 receiving yards. On paper, he is the most productive wide receiver this season in Green Bay. And he is still wide receiver by committee. But it's also important to bring this up. Matthew Golden is questionable for this game. If he can play in this one, use him more so as a downfield threat. Use him as a deep threat to take the top off the defense so guys can be open underneath and they can have those one-on-one situations. But it comes down to the play calling with Coach LaFleur. Can he keep this Bears defense off balance? And Jordan Love has to take care of the football. The Chicago Bears, they lead the NFL in takeaways by a wide margin. Look at what they did last week against Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. Look at what they've done against the Steelers. And the same against the Minnesota Vikings. They will take the football away multiple times in the game. And that's extra possessions for the Bears. And they will run the football down your throat. So you have to take care of the football here and get the run game going with Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs has 11 rushing touchdowns entering this game. He was dealing with a knee injury a few weeks ago, but now he's 100%. But you still want to mix in your backup running back and Emmanuel Wilson. He is very solid in that role. Very good 1-2 punch there, but majority of the carries should go to Josh Jacobs, who had 17 carries last week for 83 rushing yards. The longest rush of the day went for 29 yards, but stick with the run game. And you cannot be predictable with your play calling if you are Coach LaFleur. This is a Bears defense that's being coached up by Dennis Allen. They're very disciplined, and they will flip in man coverage as much as possible. So rub routes can really help you out in this game and a bunch of pick plays underneath in the red zone. And that is something that Coach LaFleur has done a great job of over the last couple of weeks against the Detroit Lions and the same against the Minnesota Vikings. But it just comes down to the offensive flow in this game. But be on lookout for Matthew Golden. the rookie wide receiver, and he's yet to catch a receiving touchdown in the regular season. Far as the defense here with the Green Bay Packers, they made that major trade right before the season started to bring in Micah Parsons, and he has been excellent this season. He just had 2.5 sacks last week. He completely took the game over in the second half. Caleb Williams is one of the most annoying quarterbacks to face. For this simple standpoint, he can move inside and outside the pocket. He can evade pressure. So if you put pressure in his face, it doesn't mean that you're going to automatically go back there and bring him down. You have to hawk him down and constantly put pressure on Caleb Williams from different angles. I will blitz him in this matchup if I am Jeff Hafley, who has been a great defensive coordinator this season in Green Bay, and be on lookout for him to be a head coach sooner than later. But they need a signature game out of Micah Parsons, similar to what happened last week. Rashawn Gary has 7.5 sacks entering this game. It's important to bring this up for Micah Parsons. He has 12 sacks as well entering this matchup. The one thing that does concern me for the Green Bay Packers, Devontae Wyatt went down with an ankle injury last week. He's going to miss the remainder of the season. And this is a Bears team. They love to run the football with DeAndre Swift, and the same with Kyle Monangai. The interior of their offensive line is just nasty with Drew Dahlman, Joe Tooney, Jonah Jackson. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they move Micah Parsons around, if they rush him in the interior. And if they do, target Jonah Jackson. Jonah Jackson has played very well over the last 5 weeks, but we've seen him give up some pressures over the last couple weeks as well. And look at what happened a few weeks ago against the Steelers. Caleb Williams had a costly mistake in the back of the red zone to TJ Watt. So you can beat up on this offensive line, but you have to do it with strategy here. But they're going to pay a lot of attention to Micah Parsons, and rightfully so. But they're going to need Rashawn Gary to continue to step his game up and be on lookout for Kobe Wooden. And the same with Carl Brooks. Those are now your starting defensive tackles, with Devontae Wyatt being out. And Devontae Wyatt is one of the best defensive tackles in the game in terms of stopping the run. Edgerrin Cooper, very good linebacker for the Green Bay Packers, and Quay Walker, who is questionable for this game. And they have Isaiah McDuffie. And it's going to be very interesting to see Ben Johnson, the head coach and the main offensive play caller with Chicago, call plays in the trenches against Jeff Hafley. The second best rushing offense with the Bears will face the 8th best rushing defense of the Green Bay Packers. They're 6th in passing defense and 4th in total defense. And the one thing that really stands out with the Green Bay Packers, especially over the last 3 games, they have not allowed a lot of rushing yards in the second half. When you look at the Chicago Bears and even Ben Johnson with the Detroit Lions, they will wear you down in the first half. So in the second half, your defensive players, they're tired. They can get those home run plays with DeAndre Swift, and the same with Kyle Monangai. That is what they did last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. But the Green Bay Packers, they find a way to find a second win in the second half, and they're tougher against the run. And as far as the secondary here with Green Bay, Xavier McKinney, phenomenal safety last year, had a bunch of interceptions. This season, the interception total has dipped down. But a lot of quarterbacks are not targeting him that much, which is smart. But he can watch the middle of the field. When you pay attention to Ben Johnson and the play action plays, a lot of routes come across the middle of the field, a bunch of posts, a bunch of crossing routes. If you're running certain man coverages, you could take away the tight end with Xavier McKinney. You could take away those seam throws with Xavier McKinney as well. He can flip his hips. He can get to the other side. So be on lookout for him as an X factor over top. Keyshawn Nixon, he needs to have a very good game against the Bears. And the same with Carrington Valentine, and you have Javon Bullard inside the nickel cornerback position. And do not sleep on Evan Williams at the strong safety position. The Bears, they match up well with the Green Bay Packers. And the Packers, they match up very well with them also. Now let's talk about Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. This team is on complete fire. They've won the last 9 out of 10 games, and their best win of the season came last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Bears walked into Philadelphia, and they beat up on this team for 4 straight quarters. They won this game 24-15. Caleb, 17 of 36, 154 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 1 interception. The pass game was not the reason why they won this game. It was their defense and the fact that you had 2 running backs who dominated on the ground. Kyle Monangai, on 22 carries, had 130 rushing yards, 6 yards a carry, 1 rushing touchdown. DeAndre Swift, 18 carries on the day, 125 rushing yards, 7 yards a carry, 1 rushing touchdown. And the longest rush of the day came for Kyle Monangai in the first half. They went for 31 yards. So they gashed the Philadelphia Eagles last week. This is the same Eagles defense that gave the Green Bay Packers a lot of problems on Monday Night Football. So the game plan against Green Bay for the Bears is to run the football as much as possible in the interior. It's a nasty run game with the Chicago Bears. They will pull a guard, they'll pull a tackle, and they'll do some fancy things. It'll be a bunch of misdirection, they'll motion over tight end to block. Then the next thing that you know, Kyle Monangai, you may look at him and you may say he's a small running back. They will run downhill in between the gaps. That's what you have to do in this game with Devontae Wyatt being out. Test out the interior defensive line of the Green Bay Packers. Now, they may move some things around, and I expect for Jeff Hafley to do that. This is where Caleb Williams comes into play. He needs to hit the open wide receiver on a consistent basis in this game. And we've seen Caleb have some big time moments this season. He had 3 passing touchdowns against the Steelers 2 weeks ago. Early on in the year, he had 4 passing touchdowns against the Dallas Cowboys. They have to get him comfortable in this game. So start off running the football. You run the football to set up the pass. Then you work off a play action. The one thing with Ben Johnson and the same with Coach LaFleur, they are so great when it comes to this. They may come out in a certain formation, and you may think to yourself, that's a run play. It goes off with play action. Now you have a safety that is close to the line of scrimmage. They have players that can go deep down the field. They can take the top off the defense. And the reason why that happens, every single play is different, but it looks the same. So certain pass plays look like a run. Certain run plays, they may look like a pass. So if they're in shotgun with the Chicago Bears, it may be a run play. They're under center. You may think, okay, it's a run play here. It's actually play action bootleg with Caleb. And Matt LaFleur does similar things in Green Bay with Jordan Love. So it's 2 masterminds going at work right here. But it comes down to Caleb. He has been so inconsistent this season with his accuracy. If he can fully dial in and trust his pocket, he will be fine. But hit the open wide receivers underneath. He doesn't need to run around every single time when he feels pressure. Step up inside the pocket, move around, sidearm throw to Luther Burden, and the same with Colson Loveland. Cole Kmet, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore. You have a lot of weapons on this team. It is similar to the Green Bay Packers. They don't just have one wide receiver that they rely on every single week. They have so many weapons, even though Rome Odunze leads his team in all the receiving stacks, receiving touchdowns, receiving yards, and receptions. But DJ Moore, you can't sleep on him. We know that he's one of the most talented wide receivers in the game. We've seen him play with Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold with the Carolina Panthers, and he still put up big-time numbers in Carolina. The talent is still there. It just comes down to the play calling and the passing concepts with Ben Johnson and the accuracy with Caleb Williams, but they need him to be more consistent in this game. And the same with Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. It's going to come down to the quarterbacks here. If you miss a throw or two, that may lose you this game. But if you can run the football, you can gash out the Green Bay Packers, you can use time of possession. And that is what the Bears did last week. The Bears possessed the football for 40 minutes. The Philadelphia Eagles only had it for 20. If that's the game plan, you work out with it all the way through. Far as the defense here for the Chicago Bears, I am a bit concerned at the linebacker position. I know when you go back 2 weeks ago against the Steelers, their entire linebacking core was decimated and they still won that game. But the Steelers do not have explosive weapons and they don't have the quarterback play that the Green Bay Packers have. TJ Edwards is questionable for this game. We'll see if he'll be able to play. If he can play, that's a very good linebacker to have in the interior. Tremaine Edmonds, he's out for this game. He's currently on IR dealing with a groin injury. You have Rubin, who is also questionable for this game. They need him to play. If you can have him and TJ Edwards, they need to go out there and run fit in the middle of the field against Josh Jacobs. This is the one thing with the Packers. They'll pull over a guard. They'll pull over a tackle with Josh Jacobs. He'll cut to the middle, open space and opportunity if you cannot tackle him immediately. And the one thing with Josh Jacobs, he is so tough to tackle with one defender. He's usually getting brought down by 2 to 3 players at a time. He's a bowling ball. One of the best backs in the game, and they have Emmanuel Wilson. Montez Sweat has been the best defensive lineman this year. To start the season, he has some bad moments, but in the last month, he's been phenomenal. 7.5 sacks in the year, 3 forced fumbles. Grady Jarrett and Gervin Dexter Sr., they need to plug up the interior inside the defense to stop those run plays of Green Bay, or just contain it at least. But in the back end of this defense, I have more confidence with Dennis Allen, who's been a very good defensive play caller. Despite all the injuries this season, this is still a very good defense. They have done a great job taking the football away. Now you have a healthy Jalen Johnson who was able to come back to the starting lineup last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. He had some good moments. He had some bad moments. You could tell that he was rusty, but coming towards the end of the game, he performed better. You have Kevin Byard. On the year, he has 6 interceptions. He leads the NFL and he has 7 pass deflections. Kyler Gordon, cornerback position, and the same with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And Jaquan Brisker, he's able to play in this game. Now, Tyreek Stevenson, he is questionable, but now you have a healthier secondary than you've had for pretty much the entire season. We'll see if Tyreek Stevenson is able to play, but press man coverage can really help you out in this game. And the same with zone coverage. The one thing with Dennis Allen, he has confused quarterbacks this season. Even some of the best quarterbacks in the game, like Jaden Daniels early on in the year with the Washington Commanders. Jaden thought that it was zone. It was actually man. Kevin Byard flips over. It goes for an interception in the red zone. So be on the lookout for those type of plays with Dennis Allen, with how he's able to flip defensive players over on the back end. But this is my game of the week. I know that we have the Houston Texans and Kansas City being the Sunday night game. In my opinion, this should have been the Sunday night matchup. I know that this may be America's game of the week because it is 325, but this is going to be a fun matchup between Jordan Love and Caleb Williams. I do trust Jordan Love more. As the home quarterback, he's very comfortable in Green Bay at Lambeau. But with all that being said, I've paid attention to the Green Bay Packers this year. They've had more great moments than bad moments, and the same with the Bears. But right now, the Bears are clicking on all cylinders. I believe that these teams will split, and I have the Chicago Bears walking into Green Bay and coming away with a win and a close game. 28-27, I'm taking the Bears. But let me know in the comment section below, who do you have winning this game? The Green Bay Packers or the Bears? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys to stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless.